Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's a very special shir. Chazak together with BJX, Baruch Hashem, is such a great partnership and organizing so many great programs and events for the community at large. Of course, we want to thank Rabbi Moshe Finger, Rabbi Yitzhak Finger at BJX. Give them a round of applause for all the unbelievable work they do. Baruch Hashem. And I want to give a shout out to who introduced us to Coach Ratner. We have Mayor Marco over here. We're having an event tonight over here in Brooklyn, event tomorrow in Queens. And just a quick word about Chazak. Of course, we organize different amazing shiurim and events in different communities, like tonight, to inspire men, women, everyone to get inspiration on their Jewish journey. Of course, has a big focus on public school outreach programs in 15 different locations, inspiring them. And of course, we have a special division called Public School Yeshiva, which has transferred over 1,500 children for Public School Yeshiva. So many tremendous programs. And of course, we're going to hear tonight from Coach Ratner. But first, we're going to hear some opening remarks from Rabbi Moshe Finger. So without further ado, let's give a round of applause to Rabbi Moshe Finger.
Thank you, Robbie, so much. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with Chazak, and you should be blessed, the organization, yourself, to continue to impact and to empower Jews wherever they are.
Amen. Amen.
Tonight, we're talking about relationships. So I want to share with you a story. The founder of the Hasidic movement, the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, he was so great. He was a mystic. He was so close to Hashem. One day, he lost all of his spiritual achievements. He forgot every single Gemara. He forgot every single halacha. He forgot every single verse in the Torah. How horrendous, how sad, how tragic. And the Baal Shem Tov felt almost betrayed. He felt all alone. He felt so isolated. We say in BJX that Judaism, more than anything else, is a relationship. Judaism is not so much a religion, it's a relationship. Are you close to God Almighty? Do you feel His love? It's all about the relationship. The poor Baal Shem Tov was devastated. And he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start seeing the Aleph Beis. And hopefully, all those madregos, all those levels, those spiritual achievements which I once had, I'll hopefully regain. And he started to say the letters of the Aleph Beis. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, nothing. Daled, Hey, nothing. He continued until he got to the very last letter, Tuf, Suf, and all of a sudden, the gift, what he once possessed, was returned to him. That relationship was again strengthened. The relationship with God Almighty returned. And where did Baal Shem Tov learn this from? Perhaps from the patriarch Jacob. Jacob, Yaakov Avinu was called the Bechir HaAvos. He was the most chosen of all the forefathers. More than Abraham, more than Isaac, Jacob was the one. He was so close, he was so special. And the Jewish people were called Bnei Yisrael after Jacob. Jacob is actually, he's the only one that's on the Merkava, the celestial chariot, which is a focus of Kabbalah, mysticism, esoteric, Jacob. But do you know about Jacob's life? Do you know that Jacob, for 22 long years, he lost his relationship with God Almighty? Did you know that? The most chosen of the forefathers, Jacob. 22 long years. As long as his son, Joseph, was missing, was absent, the Shekhinah disappeared from Jacob. And what did Jacob do? What did Yaakov Avinu do? What did he do? You know what he did? He davened. Even though he didn't have the Shekhinah, the divine presence, he davened to reestablish his relationship with God Almighty. That's what he did. He did it not for 1 week, not for 1 year, not for 1 decade. He did it for 22 years. 22 years. And that's what it means to be a Jew. That no matter where our relationship today stands, with our friends, with our spouse, between ourselves, between our relationship with God Almighty, it doesn't make a difference. We can reconnect. We can re-strengthen. We can reacquire and improve that relationship. And that's incumbent upon every single Jew, because Judaism, more than anything else, is a relationship. So I hope tonight we will all receive tremendous elucidation about relationships. Coach Ratner, it's a real honor and pleasure. Our students mentioned to me, they messaged me, they said, oh, I had him in Aish Torah. I went to a Shabbat meal by him. So even though he's new here in BHAX, he's like an old friend coming back. So we're very, very honored. And hopefully this will be life wisdom that we'll be able to retain and hold on to, something that we'll cherish as whether we pursue new relationships or work to enhance old relationships. Without further ado, Coach Ratner.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm so excited. This is my 9th talk since Wednesday. So this is really a lot. I have another one later tonight, and I have another 2 tomorrow. It's really, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is. And I get a thrill. I was last night in Roslyn and Great Neck, and after the talk, I had to force myself out. And then guys were texting me today. I was meeting all day today with people just to give them clarity. I like clarity in life. That's what I'm about, clarity. In fact, my podcast is called Living in Clarity, because I like living in clarity. I do most of the podcast with Rebbe and Lori Palatnik. Have a lot of guests and stuff. We have a new podcast coming out today. So why am I here tonight? Why am I here? First of all, the rabbi, I want to tell you about myself a little bit. My name is Daniel Ratner, and I'm from Virginia, Maryland area. And I was not raised in an observant home. I was raised in a very, very secular home. And I got married to my wife, and then we discovered Rabbi and Rebbe Lori Palatnik, who started teaching us. And we started our Jewish journey. Eventually moved into a community. Then we had 5 children, Baruch Hashem, and then we ended up moving to Israel 5 years ago, where I started to teach at Aish Torah, and I teach at Neve, and I teach for lots of seminaries, and lots of groups come to Israel. So please, if you want to hear more of me, I teach at the Essentials program, which is now going to start twice every day in the Old City, I think Sunday through Thursday. I'll be there twice a week teaching, and it's public classes. You can come in, and I'm happy if I have time afterwards to meet with you, which is great. So why am I here tonight? Why am I writing this book? So, I was married about 5 or 10 years to my wife, and I said to her, why is it that our marriage is equal to everybody else's? You have all these marriages in the world today. They're dysfunctional, people getting divorced, Hollywood, movie stars getting married 5, 6, 7 times. Why is it that our marriage is the same? I feel like there should be a second level marriage, what I call marriage 2.0. Just like you go to the Apple store to upgrade your phone, you should be able to upgrade your marriage. So I came with the idea of what I call the 4 phases of love. And the reason why, if you take 100 marriages today in the world, I'm not talking the frum world, I'm talking the general world, 100 marriages, how many get divorced? What? Come out, you're about to say something. How many? 55, 60, it's very high. Over half get divorced. Of the ones that are not divorced, the ones that are still married, how many of them do you think are in passionate, loving relationships? 10, 20, 20 got 30, 20. It's low, right? If you get married today, you have less, this is just approximation. You have less than a 1 in 5 chance of having a happy, passionate, loving relationship. Let's all get married. It sounds great, right? No, it's horrible. It's horrible. And no one's, walking down the aisle, we're in love together. We're not going to be a statistic, yet only 1 in 5 are going to succeed. So what is going on? And that's what this talk is about. It's interesting. The biggest decision you're going to make in your life is who you're going to marry. The biggest decision. Yet no one's taking classes, taking courses, reading books. Infinite Marriage, the 4 Phases of a Loving Relationship, which is out right now. I don't think you can get it at the bookstore, but it's on pre-order at Eichler's and Mosaica Press. I don't know where else. I'm not really sure. I'm not into selling books. I'm into spreading wisdom. I usually give them away. They won't let me give them away. I have other books. You can download my first 2 books for free at coachratner.com. It's too much information. Anyway, I'm happy to give them away, but they won't let me do this now, so you have to buy the book. Anyway, everything you hear tonight is in the book, plus a lot more. I'm not going to keep you here for 3 hours, which I'd like to do, but I have another talk to go to. So, if you're going to get a real estate license, if you're going to become an accountant, you're going to become a lawyer, you've got to study and study and study. Yet the biggest decision you're going to make in your life, you're going into it without any wisdom whatsoever. No wonder that people fail so bad in their marriages. So I put love and relationships into 4 phases. Phase 1 is what I call the crush. This is when you go out with a guy or a girl and they're kind of cute and they make you laugh and you want to go out some more and like, I can see dating this person. And you go out with them for, a little bit, once or twice, and you get to the crush. Now the crush might be confused with infatuation, which has a negative connotation, but sometimes you have that infatuation that in order to get the love. And I do want to say one thing before I start. In this book, and also you can download for free on my website, a worksheet that helps clarify the 10 characteristics that would be good for you in a relationship. Not what you think you want, because those are two different things. God's not going to give you what you want, he's going to give you what you need. And those are two different things. Because when you say what I want in a relationship, what you're basically naming is your characteristics. Because who do you love the most? Yourself. So when you say who I want in a relationship, you want to marry yourself. But guess what? You already have enough of you. You don't need any more of yourself. You need someone to complete you as a person. And we learn an idea in the Torah when Eliezer is looking for a wife for Yitzhak. He prays, and he's praying, and the Torah doesn't say this, but he's praying for two characteristics that he wants to find when he finds Rivka. He's praying for kindness and awareness. He's praying that she would notice that he's thirsty, and he's praying that she will notice the camels need thirsty also, which Rivka did. Rivka was a kindness and she had awareness. And the Torah says, Yitzhak married Rivka. What's the next line? Yitzhak loved Rivka, which means he married her before he loved her. Is that a possibility in this world? Yes, it is. If you can open your heart and you know the characteristics you want and you don't have a lot of dysfunction, you can certainly get married before you love somebody. You have to do a lot of research and be secure in yourself. But I know that's not typical in the world today, so we're going to talk about love. Because most people are in love before they get married. So you have this crush, and you get to phase 2, which is what I call the research phase. This is the phase that's very exciting, because everything's new. You're like learning about the person. You're trying to learn their likes and their dislikes. And you're trying to find the skeletons in the closet, which you're not going to find them all. And it's interesting because when I was setting up people up in America, I would say, because Israel's different. When I say, oh, are you, I have someone for you. I'm like, oh, I'm busy. That's what they say. But in America, they say, I'm seeing someone. What does it mean when you're seeing someone? It means you're dating. It means you're dating someone, right? What should they be saying? I am listening to someone, because listening is how relationships are formed. The word listen and silent have the same exact letters. When I was I was not raised in a religious home, like I said before, so I was dating in the secular world. I couldn't get a second date. I was in my early 20s, and I couldn't get a second date. And one of my friends said to me, he has a lot of wisdom. He's still a very good friend of mine, actually. He said, when you go on a date with a woman, don't talk, just listen. I'm like, what? Really? He goes, yeah. That's how they connect emotionally. And he's correct. He's completely correct. When you're going on a date, when you're dating, you have to listen. Now, there's two kinds of listening. There's hearing, going in one ear, out the other, and there's listening, internalizing, understanding it. The second paragraph of Shema that we say twice a day, Shema v'tishma'u, hear and you shall listen. Listening is an art form. Most people don't listen very well, especially this side of the room. No offense. We don't. We have a hard time listening. We're going to get into that, right? So many stories. Okay, I was coaching. When I was in Chicago, a woman after the class, she said that when she talks to her husband, he walks out on her in the middle of the conversation. And I've done that to my wife before. I admit I've done before. And I said, well, some of the time we only have so much bandwidth. We can't. We're going to get into this a little bit later. But I said to her, you need to talk in bullet points. You have to be concise, because women like to talk, men like to share ideas. Women like to share their feelings. We like to watch ESPN with a beer. Do you understand the difference? We have different needs and desires. And the women also have to understand that we can only handle so much talking. So if there's something you want to share with your husband or your boyfriend, and you're a talker, you have to understand we only have so much bandwidth. Now, we have to do a better job of listening, which we're going to get into. We're going to give you some tips, both sides, to help each other, okay? So that's the research phase. Then you get to phase 3, which I call the commitment. The commitment, obviously, is marriage, but in today's world, I'm writing this book for the world, and not everyone's what do I have to get married? So I call it the commitment, but really it means marriage. And this is where the problem lies. Who here is single? Of you single people, how many of you want to be married? Okay, most of your hands are going up, right? You want to be married. You're not sure? Right. You don't know? Well, with this, by the way, remember I told you the stats of marriage today? This does not include any of you. The fact that you're here tonight, hearing this wisdom, means those statistics are going out the window. My goal for this class is for you to be in a passionate, loving relationship with one person the rest of your life. And if you're not, I failed and I have no intention of failing. Do you get that? This is what we're going to game tonight. I know it's a big order, but I'm going to make my effort, right? So you get to the commitment, and this is where the problem lies. Everyone wants to get married, and they think once they get married, I'm married, I'm done. The day you get married is the day the hard work starts. I had a couple in my class on Friday night. I did a Shabbaton. Young people, there was a couple there, beautiful couple, Jewish. They just got engaged a few months ago. They're getting married in June. I said, great, what have you been doing the last few months? They said, well, we've been planning the wedding. Like what? Like, who's in the A list, the B list, the caterer, the wedding venue, the theme, the colors, the caterer, the band. I go, that's great. How long does your wedding last? 5 hours max. What should they be planning together? The rest of their life. The day you get married is the day the hard work starts. If you ever watched a romantic comedy, I used to watch movies many years ago. I don't really watch anything anymore, except missiles flying, being shot over my house. Besides that, you've watched a romantic comedy. What's the last scene in the movie? The wedding. It's the wedding, right? How can they never show 10, 20, 30 years later? Because it wouldn't be a romantic comedy, it'd be a murder mystery. The day you get married is the day the hard work starts. So there has to be another phase, and I call it phase 4. And that phase I call never leaving. Never leaving. And the reason why I call it never leaving, I'll tell you in the class, because this is the point in your relationship you've been married 5, 10, 15 years, and you realize that there is someone better in every single characteristic than your spouse. There's someone who's a better lover, someone who opens up more emotionally, someone who's not a slob, someone's a better cook, someone who's skinnier, someone who's whatever it is. There's someone better in every single relationship, in every single quality. But you finally realize the person you married isn't perfect, but you realize they're perfect for you. And that's the phase that I want you to get to, the phase of never leaving. Now, what's the difference between the phase of the commitment and phase of never leaving? There's a lot. Because you are only committed to things until you're not committed anymore. I mean, how many times New Year's comes, I'm going to work out 3 times a week, right? And you work out for 2 weeks and you quit. Or I'm going to eat a vegan diet. Or I'm going to stop smoking pot. Or I'm going to keep kosher. Or I'm going to keep kosher while I'm not smoking pot. Whatever it's going to be, right? And you just keep it up for a while and then you can't hold it up. You're committed to a political party, you're committed to a school, you're not committed anymore. You're only committed until you're not committed anymore. It is not enough. You have to get to the phase of never leaving, and that's what we're going to talk about today. One of the first things that I learned from Rabbi Noach Weinberg, the founder of Aish Torah, I got to meet him, thank God I got to meet him. I mean, he's not alive anymore, but he kissed me in the cheek. I met him once, he kissed me in the cheek. I don't tell the story very often. I was it was 2007 or 8, and I had just started learning, and my Rebbetzin says, oh, do you want to go to the Aish Torah Partners Conference in Connecticut? I'm living in Maryland at the time. I'm like, I'm not a partner in an Orthodox organization. I mean, I was very secular, just let it be known, very secular. I'm not a partner in an Orthodox organization. And then the night before the conference, she said, by the way, we have a private jet going. One of our donors is going, and there's room for you, your wife, and your 2 little kids. I said, twist my arm. So I drove to Dulles Airport. They valeted my car. I walked into the lounge, got a cappuccino, walked in the plane, and I flew a private jet up to White Plains, New York, and went to this conference. And that's when I met Noah Weinberg, and he kissed me on the cheek. Little did I know that I'd be teaching at that same institution that he kissed me on the cheek one, 10 years later or something. It's really an amazing, amazing story. So he said you have to define your terms. So who here wants to be in love? You all want to be, okay. Okay, tell me what love is. Giving?
I really think it's about understanding and understanding there's a difference between loyalty and love and really staying strong and committed, even through really tough times.
Right, my dog is so committed to me. My dog Mocha, she's Labrador. She is so committed to me. I mean, she doesn't leave my side. Wherever I am in the house, she's following me around. Anybody else? Leaving?
Respect.
Respect's very important. We're going to get into that in a second. I'm just going to tell you now because I'm living a time. Go ahead.
How about working together?
Yes, yeah, my friend Cab and Jake, we work together. We have a hard money business. We loan money all the time. We work together. We love each other. I'm making fun of you. I'm sorry. I don't mean fun of you. Okay, so what I'm going to give you is I call the feeling of love, which you said is giving. And I put this in my new book because I feel like there's the feeling of being loved and actually the definition of love. And I did this with marriage also. The feeling of love is wanting to give without getting anything in return. That's what it feels like to be in love.
With some women, you give, and it's never enough.
We're going to get into that. Okay. Okay. So, anyone here like fish, like salmon, or anyone here like fish? You like fish? What kind of fish you like? Salmon. How do you like it cooked?
Like
Baked salmon. I had sushi tonight. I went to some place here in Flatbush. Delicious sushi. So good. Yum. Anyway, what's your name?
Yafa.
Yafa. Beautiful name. How old are you? Wait, don't tell me your age. You're not ever supposed to ask a woman her age. How much do you weigh? Just kidding. Yafa, you like salmon, right?
Yeah.
If Yafa, you love salmon. Yafa loves salmon. She loves salmon, right? We all love salmon. If Yafa really loved salmon, you know what she would do? She would take a salmon, put it in a bowl of water by her nightstand. She'd read it fish stories all night and take it from fish play dates. You don't love salmon, you love the pleasure that salmon brings you. Rabbi Twersky calls that, Avraham Twersky calls that fish love. It's called fish love. Yafa has an infatuation with salmon. She doesn't really love salmon, she has an infatuation with salmon. Many people get married for infatuation and they confuse it with love. The definition of love is the emotional pleasure you feel when you focus on the virtues of another person. And you continue to associate them with those virtues as you age. Again, the definition of love is the emotional pleasure you feel when you focus on the virtues of someone else and you continue to associate them with those virtues. I'll say it more simple. There's a reason why you fell in love. What happened to those reasons? Why are so many relationships falling apart? What happened to those reasons you fell in love? Or another way to put it, everyone's crazy, so you better remember why you fell in love. Let me give you an analogy. This actual reason is why I started writing this course. I was sitting in a hotel room in Fort Lauderdale, and I saw a TV show. Anyone watching Food Network? Food Network. What's your favorite show? Chopped. Okay, this is the show. Thank you. The reason why this show reminds me of marriage is because when they start they have 4 chefs that come on the show, and they have 15 minutes or 20 minutes to make an appetizer. And when they start that time, they have to open this basket full of very unusual ingredients. These are ingredients that most chefs don't cook with, like snake meat, squid ink, jicama powder, snail urine. I mean, like, who cooks with snail urine, right? I made that one up. Anyway, and they have to use them in the dish. And marriage is the exact same way. You're coming into a relationship, you have your basket full of stuff, you're gonna marry another person, they have their basket full of stuff, and you try to so-called cook in the kitchen together. And you try, and you didn't realize that they had so many unusual ingredients. And you try, and sometimes you fail. Those ingredients can be anger issues, lack of trust issues, inability to open up emotionally, dysfunction, slob, anger, not listening, whatever, many issues. Everyone has issues. You know, it's interesting. I never hear people divorcing their kids. You ever heard of that? Yeah, you don't pick your kids. Yeah, you pick your spouse and you divorce them? What's that about? It's because you stopped. Tell my mom I'll call her back. It's because you stopped focusing on why you fell in love with him in the first place. Am I making sense? Okay. Now we're going to get to another topic. There's many topics I have, the 3-date rule, whatever. We're going to get into some things, but I want to talk about the 3 questions you must ask before you marry somebody. The 3 questions you must ask before you marry someone. Question number 1, am I physically attracted to them? Which, by the way, doesn't make them physically attracted to anybody else. They only need to be physically attracted to you. The reason why I have a 3-date rule, which I'm not going to get into, the reason I have it is because the more you know someone you like, the better looking they get. Do you understand what I'm saying? The more you know someone you like, the better looking. Whereas the exact opposite, the more you don't like someone, no matter how good looking they are, the uglier they get. I always use these 2 as an example. If you have a better example for me, please let me know. Angela Jolie, beautiful woman, actress on Hollywood, right? She's gorgeous. There are many actors that can't stand her. have no interest in going out with her. Brad Pitt, good-looking guy. They're a woman who can't stand him. For every gorgeous man walking down the street, for every beautiful woman walking down the street, there is someone that is sick of them. Looks only go so far. You might have been to a wedding. You're a guy, you might have been to one of your buddies, and you never met the bride before, and you go to the wedding, and you go to the bedeck, and you see the bride, and you say, man, she looks like Miss Piggy. And the reason is because you don't know her like he knows her. And a girl might have been to with her best friend, and she saw the groom for the first time, and she said, oh my gosh, she looks like Freddy Krueger. The reason why? You don't know him like she knows him. Looks only go so far, and I have a concept that's called first date bias. When you go on your first date, the only thing you have to go on is what they look like. That's it. That's why you have to give at least 3 chances, because you don't know someone after one date. When I used to date, when I was dating, I dated a lot in my 20s and 30s. I was always worried about like spilling food on myself. I was not careful with eating. I've gotten much better now. And so I would never go to a pasta place or a pizza place. I'd go to a place that had salads. And I'd say that when I order a salad, can I please have a salad? And sure. And I go, yeah, can you nix the avocados because they can get stain on your shirt? Forget the dressing. I don't want dressing. No peppers. No. Carrots, forget about it. Get caught in your teeth. I'll have a bowl of lettuce. And if I'm like that on my first date, are you going to get to know me on the first date? Not a chance. The first question you need to ask before you marry someone, am I physically attractive? Am I physically attracted to them? Which doesn't make them physically attracted to anybody else, except you. The second question you must ask before you marry someone, do we share common meaningful values and goals? Do we share common meaningful values and goals that are more than just physical? Let me give you an example. Many people marry because they want to have children. May you all be blessed with a lot of children, amen, right? But that cannot be the only reason why you get married. Because then what happens, 20, 25 years you've been married, you have a couple in the kitchen staring at each other, wondering why they got married in the first place. Because the reason for marriage is out the window, has left the house. Do you understand my point? Many people meet at Pilates classes and yoga classes and softball games and running clubs. It's great. I mean, I think people should work out. I think working out is very good. Happens is you get married, you have kids, and guess what? Do you work out together anymore? Probably not. And then your reason for being married goes away, and guess what? You're wondering why you're in a horrible relationship. You get married for money, same thing. Money, I'm not going to get into the money, but like Bill Gates got divorced, Jeff Bezos got divorced. That is not, I'd rather you have money than not have money, but that is not a good reason to get married. It must be more than physical. I give this class to many people, even non-Jews, and I really personally believe that having God in your life, having Torah in your life, is the foundation for a passionate, loving relationship. We have something in our life to guide us. Shabbos is the focus of our life. Learning Torah and learning the mitzvahs and learning to love each other and learning everything about Torah gives us balance in our life. Now, if you're not religious, it still can be, you can still have something that's meaningful and value. For example, I was in LA back in early February, and I was there for business, and Aish Torah asked me to go to Miami. They had like some sort of conference, they wanted to meet some donors. I'm like, I don't need to go, I don't work for them, I don't work for Aish Torah, I just teach there. And it costs money to go, they're not gonna pay for me. I don't need to go to Miami. So they said to me, we have a couple that are flying from LA to Miami on a private jet. What if we can get you a ride on a private jet? Another private jet story, isn't that funny? Funny, I didn't think about that. And so I said, you're kidding me, right? Like, no. I'm like, okay, I'll do it, whatever. So I ended up flying from Van Nuys, a private airport. I flew from Van Nuys to Miami with this couple. They're in their late 60s. They have no children. They're both Jewish. And they spend their time working on charitable causes. They're very big donors to JET in LA, which is a Chabad school. And they are very big in conservative political movements. They give to Aish Torah, and they're involved. This is their common meaningful goal and value, something more than physical. And if you don't have something meaningful to hold by in your relationship, you're going to have a hard time. Meaning and purpose are one of the most important things in life. Purpose being forward-looking and meaning being backward-looking. When you have a purpose, that creates meaning in your life. And when you have meaning in your life, it's so much easier to be in a relationship. And the third question you must ask before you get married is different for a man and the woman. The third question that a man must ask before he gets married, am I willing to make her happy the rest of my life? Am I willing to make her happy the rest of my life if, fill in the blank, if she gains 50 pounds, if she, whatever it is. I was coaching a guy today, this is true today. He was young, and he was trying to chase this girl, and he finally went, he had a double date with her and her friend, and she hadn't seen her in a few months, and she gained like 10 pounds or something. And then he liked her friend better because she was better looking. I'm like, this is not the way to have a relationship. Like, we're all gonna age, we're all gonna get heavy, you have to be more than just, right? You have to be willing to make her happy the rest of her life no matter what. Because when you make her happy, she'll make you happy. And I'm gonna give you clues today on how to make her happy. The third question that you must ask before you get married for a woman, you ready for this one? And this is something when you're in your 20s and 30s you don't really recognize, but as I've gotten older, it is true. I could tell in some of the classes I give that the older men understand this. The third question a woman must ask before she marries a man is, do I respect him? Men need to be respected. We want to be loved, but we need respect. Women, on the other hand, a husband should respect his wife. But she needs love. Do you understand the difference? Men need respect. If a man works for a Fortune 500 company, he's a president, he comes home from Wall Street and goes home, and everyone bows down at work, and he comes home and his wife doesn't respect him, that marriage is going to have a hard time. It's going to have a hard time. And if you are married and you have a husband and you find nothing to respect him for, you treat him like a man you respect, and he'll become a man you respect. If he sits on the couch all day while you're cooking Shabbat dinner and does nothing, you say to your husband, thank you so much for staying out of the kitchen. It really helps me a great deal. And he's going to love that compliment, and he's going to try to help you do something else. If he sets the table and the table's all messy and you don't like the way he does it, instead of saying, I don't like to set the table because you live in a mess, that's not what you do. You say, thank you, honey, for sitting at the table. I really appreciate it. And when he turns around, you fix the table yourself. I'm being honest. We want to be respected. We do. It's so important for us. We're very simple beings. Food, sex, respect. We're good. That's all we need. We want to be loved. That's what we need. And I'm going to give you a tip in order how you respect your husband. This works for me. If it doesn't work for you, I understand. This is one of the, I have my podcast. I have a guy and a student, an Asian student who's in Guatemala. He puts shorts up on me on different podcasts. And there's one, this exact one I'm going to tell you in a second. Got so many comments because people don't agree with it, but it works for me. When I come home from learning or work, I used to come home from America. I worked, and I come home now from learning or teaching. I'll walk into my house. My wife will be, Sarah, I have to go now. My husband just walked in. Click. Hi, honey. Game changer. I know when I walk into the house that my wife's stopping what she's doing and she's respecting me. And for me, that is way more important than her running up and giving me hugs and kisses. Do you understand my point? That's why we need respect. And by the way, my wife doesn't talk on the phone. She's faking it, and I don't care. We have 3 questions. We got the 3 questions down? Okay. Now we're going to talk about something called sunscreen love. And I came up with this concept because I use a lot of analogies, and you hear chopped. Before I start sunscreen love, I want to talk about the PIES. The PIES is my acronym for the marriage. PIES consist of 4 things. P-I-E-S. Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. Physicality, must, always. Intellectual, should somewhat be on the same intellect. But emotional is the most important thing, and then spiritual. I'm going to give you a case study. I was coaching a girl at Aish Torah, sharp as a whip, 24, 25, really sharp, like really, really sharp. And she told me about her boyfriend. She'd been dating for 2 years. She's in love with him. She wants to marry him. But she's confused because he's not that smart. And she told me all these great things about him. And I'm like, wow, that sounds great. I'd love to meet him. Well, he's at Aish Torah also. She was in the Gesher program, and he was in the base. So I met the guy, or he's a Gesher. So I met him. And the guy is super awesome. I mean, he's sweet, he's kind, he's caring. He's got all the gifts you want. He's a little slow. I mean, you can tell, just not quite there. You know, just like, she's wicked sharp. She's going to be in sales and be successful. He's just not quite there. Something's going on with him. I don't know what it is. But he's awesome. And I said to her, this guy's awesome. I mean, he's going to make a great husband. I can see you marrying him. 6 months later, I get a call from her. She's struggling. She's back in America. And she says to me, I said, So I asked her these 3 questions. I said, do you respect him? And she started crying. I said to her, you know, he's going to make a great husband someday, just not for you. And she says, I should break up with him. I go, yeah. Then she said, can I date him for 2 more years till I finish college? I go, no, you can't do this to this guy. It's a true story. Woman must respect her husband. Sunscreen love. Okay, anyone here go to the beach? You go to the beach? Sometimes. Anyone go to the beach? Anyone at the beach? You put sunscreen on? Okay. You guys are no fun. I used to go to the beach all the time. I was in a secular life before I learned Torah. And I would go to Dewey Beach in Delaware, and I put sunscreen on, SPF 30 or 15, whatever. I put it in the morning at 9 o'clock. I go to the beach all day. And I'm busy on the beach because I'm playing volleyball, playing in the waves, reading a book, taking a nap, having lunch. I'm busy, right? I come back at 4 in the afternoon in the house, and I'm burnt all over. What happened? I didn't reapply the sunscreen. Love is the exact same way. You fall in love in your early 20s, you're walking down the aisle. What do you mean love forever? And your love comes easy because it's so easy, right? You're in love. And then you get busy, you have kids, have more kids. You have a job, you have hobbies. Life gets in the way. And you forget to romance the relationship. And next thing you know, you find your relationship's burning. I know guys in their 40s and 50s have gotten divorce letters from their wife's attorneys, and they had no idea their relationship was faltering. They had no concept. And the reason was they forgot to romance the relationship. Romance is taking that lust, infatuation, love, and turning it into love. And if you don't work on it, your relationship will burn. You have to live with the 4 A's. I know I'm giving a lot of information. I'm cutting a lot out because I've been giving way too much information. Someone said, Coach, it's too much from us. It's too much. They love it, but it's too much. The 4 A's are attention, affection, appreciation, and awareness. It's the little things that a person does for their spouse on a daily basis that builds the love in that relationship. I'm going to get back to the 4 A's in a second. How do you use sunscreen love? So I grew up in an Ashkenazi family, and my mom used to criticize us a lot. Take a message from me. My mom used to criticize us a lot, all my kids, and my brothers and sisters. And my brothers become very critical, whatever, we all become critical. And we don't think we're being critical. Like, it's part of our life just to criticize. It comes natural without even thinking about it. I was coaching a 40-year-old girl, and she had just become religious, and she was going on a date with a Sephardi guy. And they had a date in Netanya. And the Sephardi guy, he's not really religious, but he's connected, whatever. So they're having some bread, and he goes to wash, and he washes his hands, and he comes to the table, and he eats a sandwich. And she says to him, aren't you going to say a bracha? And he's like, no. She says, you're supposed to say a bracha. He goes, I guess. And I said to her, do you know you're criticizing him? She goes, no, I'm not. I told this girl, she told me at my house, she was my Shabbat dinner table. I was like, do you know you criticized him? She goes, I didn't criticize him. That's criticism. Even though you don't think it's criticism, she says, I'm trying to help him make him into a better person. No, you're criticizing him. He's seeing it as critical. When you tell your wife, you kind of overcooked the chicken, and you think to yourself, I'm trying to make my wife into a better cook, she's taking it as criticism. Every time you criticize your spouse, you're wiping the sunscreen off. The relationship will burn. And every time you compliment your spouse, you're putting sunscreen on. You want to build the love in your relationship? Compliment, don't criticize. I know it's hard. There's an idea that you should compliment 80% of the time and criticize 20% of the time. With your spouse, you shoot for 100-0, because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have problems. You're going to fail sometimes. It's okay. We all do. Every one of us. When you say I'm going to shoot 100% of the time, you'll have a better shot. So I have a little song I sing in my house. Compliment, don't criticize. Compliment, don't criticize. Or she'll find another guy. Compliment, don't criticize. Or she'll poke you in the eye. Compliment, don't criticize. Or he'll say, bye, bye, bye. Compliment, don't criticize. Live under sunny skies. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a lot more of that stuff, I don't. Anyone here, you heard me Essentials? Did you hear me Essentials? Yeah. I think maybe once or twice, right? Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. People always ask me, how did you become observant? It's not typical for a guy in his 40s to become observant. So I sing a little song. I had a big job in the city, working for the dollar every night and day. This old rabbi told me I was fit to be holy. Get yourself a Bible, son, and see what it say. Instead of getting heard the roses, get yourself the 5 books of Moses. Learn it from the Torah. Well, I read a bit about creation, the Garden of Eden, and Adam and Eve. Cain slew Abel. Noah's boat was stable. The more I read, well, the more I believe. The reason why we got big noses is to stick him in the 5 books of Moses. Learn it from the Torah. Anyway, thank you. I'll be here next week. Thanks. Sunscreen love. Compliment, don't criticize. It is a game changer in a relationship. Now we're gonna get into the 4 A's. Attention, affection, appreciation, and awareness. Now, when should a husband and wife pay attention to each other? At all times. Now here's the big part of the class. We talked about the pies, the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. I talked a little bit about intellectual. You don't have to be on the same level, but somewhat close. Spiritual, I'll quickly just say you should both be on the ladder. You know, when Jacob's at the, having this dream of the angels going up into the ladder, like I say, and most guys will say this, yeah, I'm willing to grow, and they're not. That's a different story. That you should see some proof that they're willing to grow, and everyone should be on the ladder. When we started our Jewish journey, I wasn't on the same place as my wife, but at least I was on the ladder. I wasn't like doing the Heisman. I have no interest. Like, I was learning, I was willing to learn, I was going to classes, doing Shabbat dinners, I was willing to grow. I never thought I'd be a teacher at Aish Torah, but that's a different story. So you have to be on the same ladder. Physicality, we've talked about, you must be physically attracted to them. Emotional thing is the most important thing in the world for a man to understand with his wife. They want an emotional connection to us. Most important thing. When we come up from work or come up from learning, generally, I'd like to go home. I used to do coin business. I'd come home, I want to grab a beer and watch ESPN highlights. That's what I wanted to do. My father would come home from work, he'd put her in the garden for half an hour and go take a nap and then come for dinner and see my mom. So he had no interest in talking to my mom, and I didn't have any interest in talking to my wife because I'm overwhelmed with work. But you have to see, we're not living with ourselves. This is not a one-way relationship. Marriage is not about me, marriage is about we. So we have to see things from someone else's perspective. Our wives need to connect to us when we come up from work. And it's not easy for us. And we have to find that common ground. So this tip will help you a great deal if you're married. And if you're not married, it'll help you with dating also. We talk about listening being part of the relationship, really listening, understanding what they're saying. When a man comes home from work, he should put his phone down and he should ask his wife 3 questions. Question number 1, what did you do today? Question number 2, what did you cook? What did you cook me for dinner? It's not a question, right? Because now it's about you. Do you get that? What did you do today? Number 2, what's in your mind? Or what are you thinking about? Whichever one. You can choose. You can make your own questions up. It's fine. And number 3, how do you feel? When you ask her what she did that day, if you can be more specific about how was it taking our daughter to the doctor's today? Or how was your meeting at school? Whatever it is, that's dealing with her fingers, her physicality. And when you ask her what's in her mind, what she's thinking about, that deals with the intellect. And when you ask how she's feeling, that deals with her heart. We just did PIE. Then you say a bracha and you all pies, right? And you have to sit there and you have to listen for at least 15 seconds. I'm kidding. But it's not easy for us to sit there and listen for a long time. So you have to take into consideration that we're limited in how much we can listen. Because sometimes women want to talk and talk and talk, and then we walk out of the room not knowing that, because we just lose contact. We lose our consciousness, because that's how we are. But you have to do a job of connecting to them. And that is asking those 3 questions when you come home. And by the way, some of us rather go mow the lawn than do that. In fact, some of us rather have a colonoscopy than do this. It's not easy for us, and I understand. But the reason for this class is not to have a good marriage, is not to have a great marriage, it's to have an awesome marriage. In order to do that, you have to work on the love, and you have to make the effort to connect to your wife on an emotional basis. The Gemara says that the punishment for a wife that cheats on her husband is worse than for a man. Why? Because when a wife cheats, it's probably, most likely, there are exceptions, it's most likely because she's looking for an emotional connection to somebody else. When a man cheats, probably not as much. It's probably just because of opportunity. These are generalizations I'm making right now, just so you know. There are, outliers. But women need to connect to us emotionally. We have to do a job of connecting. I knew a guy, he was, this is back when I was living in Maryland, and he was complaining that his wife cheated on him. He ended up getting a divorce, and he complained that the reason for the divorce was she cheated on him. And I just have to tell you, from my perspective, there's his version, her version, and the truth somewhere in the middle. that he was not, just my feeling, that he was not giving her emotional attention she needed, and she was looking somewhere else for emotional connection. And when you say, my wife's not doing it, not doing this, that, and that, your job is to make your wife happy. So when you make her happy, she's going to make you happy. And the most important way of doing it is through that emotional connection. So that's attention, appreciation. Always show appreciation to your spouse. Always thank them. Always tell them nice job they did. Attention, affection, appreciation with your words. You never yell at your wife or your husband. You never raise your voice. You never make fun of them, especially in public. I know spouses I've seen make fun of them. It's not a good sign for a relationship when they're making fun of each other. Do you understand? The joke should never be on each other. You can make a joke about yourself, but never about your spouse. But then low self-esteem comes into play. It's a different issue. By the way, I can talk about it. If you don't love yourself, you're going to have a hard time loving somebody else. I ended up writing a whole, in my podcast about a year ago, I did some videos on self-esteem, and they went nuts, like crazy nuts. Like one of my TikToks did 5.5 million views, which is a lot, I think, 5.5 million views, like 50,000 shares, 500,000 likes, and it brought a lot of traffic to my website, and I wrote a book on it, and it's going to come out later this year. This is the book that's out now, Infinite Marriage. This is what we're talking about now. We're touching on some of the topics. But self-esteem is a major issue. Attention, affection, appreciation, and awareness. Always be aware of your spouse's needs. This is not a one-way relationship. You have to understand, what does my wife need? What does my husband need? I remember recently, I tell you this is if you really want to have a great relationship, write a book on marriage. I'm serious. It really will clear things up for you. So I was going through my sock drawer in the morning. I said, all my socks, I don't know if the Israeli socks are like thinner. I'm not sure. Probably because I walk everywhere in Israel. I don't have a car, so I notice like 5 to 7 miles a day. And it's like my holes have socks in them. And the next thing I know, Amazon's at my door delivering a bag of socks. My wife just got socks from me. I didn't ask. And my wife texts me, yeast. That is a sign that I get yeast, and immediately. I don't wait. I do it as fast as I can. Now, if the window's broken and she wants me to fix those blinds or something, I'm like, I'll get it done by the end of the month. I'm not, so stark on that. Something that's not so imperative, I don't do. But if my wife needs yeast, I know she needs it. I know I have the awareness that my wife cooks with yeast every day. Every week she makes challah. If you guys ever want to taste awesome challah, you know this, right, Mayor? Come to my wife makes killer challah. There's a thing in my house when the guys come, like, there's a name for it. It's like when you just keep eating the challah and you just can't eat anything else. And it's like a sickness they have. I got to stop eating challah. Get away from me. Listen, every single person here in this room can have an amazing, awesome relationship. You have to understand that just love comes in 4 phases. And when you understand the 4 phases, and that the ultimate phase, the commitment, the marriage, is not the end, that is just the beginning. And then when you finally meet the spouse and that you want to get married, you have to ask yourself these 3 questions. And if you're not sure about those 3 questions, do the worksheet that's in my book. It's also on my website. You can download it for free. It's a worksheet that helps clarify the 10 things that are good for you. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Understand that love takes work. That relationship can burn so easily if you don't work on the relationship. It's like I said, when you're young, it's easy. It's when time goes on, you have kids, you have to work on that love. I'm going to end with one last idea. What's important to you needs to be important to me. So we have, like I said before, we have our own perceptions of how things work. Just like you have your perception of love and your feeling of love, and they have their perception of love. By the way, when you're dating, I highly recommend you have a common definition of the word love and marriage before you get married. And you need to agree on that definition, because you don't, this is where problems lie, defining your terms. What's important to you needs to be important to me. When I first got married, my wife wanted to go see modern dance shows. And I don't like modern dance, but I'd go anyway. And she'd come with me to see the symphony, and she didn't like it. But she did it because she knew it was important to me. That's easy. This is where it gets interesting. We have 5 children. I do the cooking in the house, and when I'm done cooking, I put everything in the sink, and she washes the dishes afterwards. And she kindly asked me, can you please place the sharp knives on the side of the sink? I don't want to do it. Because from my perspective, my kitchen is not clean if the sharp knives that are dirty are on the side of the sink. I want them in the sink. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, I grab 7 small forks, I put them on the table. I had 5 little kids. And my wife kindly asked me, can you please bring me a large fork? I'm like, fine. So I get the small fork, I bring a large fork. Here's the issue. See, from my perspective, I don't care which fork I eat with. I can eat with a small fork, a large fork, toothpicks, tongs, tweezers, straw, my fingers. I don't care. But I'm not living with myself. I'm living with somebody else. Marriage is not about me. It's about we. And I have to see things from her perspective. So eventually I said, you know what? Let me get a large fork. And I started leaving the sharp knives on the side of the sink. Was it hard for me to do? No. That wasn't hard for me to do. But you know what's hard for me to do? Get over my ego. You said to get over my ego. Because why do I have to change for my wife? My ego is killing me. Egos are one of the worst things in a relationship. Your ego is not your amigo. I'm telling you that right now. And I finally changed. But you know the most important thing about this? Is that every time my wife goes in that kitchen and she sees the sharp knives on the side of the sink, she knows I'm thinking about her. Every time she sits down for dinner and she has a large fork, she knows I'm thinking about her. But what's more important, she knows I'm thinking about her for something that doesn't even matter to me. You want to make an emotional connection to your wife? You want your wife to get you socks without you saying a word? Do something important to her that's not important to you. And that'll increase the emotional connection in a relationship. And that'll want to make you love you more and give you more passion. That is available to every one of us. And the reason why I call the fourth phase never leaving, because I was 34 at the time, I dated a lot. I went out with my wife, that's a whole other story. And I said to her on the second date, I'm never leaving. I don't know what it meant at the time. I was not mature enough to say, I love you, because we weren't religious. I mean, we weren't scared each other away, right? Can you imagine a secular person on the second date? Let's get married. No, I wasn't gonna do that, right? I'm never leaving. And she says to me today, you still haven't left. My blessing to you is you take this wisdom you learned tonight. If you're married, you're single, whatever it is, there's a lot more in dating I didn't even get into tonight. You take this wisdom today, you bring it home with you, you start learning it, you live with it, and you too will have a passionate, loving relationship with one person the rest of your life. Thank you very much.